wonder why the colder months seems to bring a dip in your mood or energy? You might be dealing with what's commonly known as winter blues. Today we're unpacking seasonal affective disorder, or called SADS. What is it? Why it happens? And how can you manage it? I'm Natty.
I'm Vita,
And we are here to thrive.
Welcome back to another episode of Thrive by the Rising Muse. Today we're diving into an important mental health topic, seasonal affective disorder, also known as SAD or the winter blues. We're thrilled to have a licensed professional counselor, Alexandra Mays, founder of Mindful Steps, an organization dedicated to supporting mental health and well-being. Alexandra specializes in mental health and has a wealth of knowledge about how seasonal changes can affect our mental well-being. Alexandra, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for that introduction.
Thank you. I love having you here. Let's start with the basics. For those who are not familiar, can you explain what seasonal affective disorder or SAD is and how it differs from general depression?
Of course. Now, seasonal affective disorder, the acronym itself spells the word SAD, and it is very different from general depression. It's basically depression that experienced through seasonal changes. It follows a seasonal pattern, basically. So it's not uncommon for people to experience depressive symptoms in the fall and winter, and then it tends to alleviate during the spring and summer. However, I also want to highlight that sometimes people may experience seasonal affective disorder in the summer and the spring as well. And it may alleviate in the fall and winter too. So there's like two ways of experiencing it when you think about the seasons. But the key difference is that SAD follows a seasonal pattern. General depression is something people can experience year round, regardless of the seasons that are happening.
Interesting, because I thought SAD was related to lighting, kind of like the sun is, in the fall and the winter, we have less lighting. So I thought that's what um, caused the syndrome. But the fact that it also could be in the spring and the summer is quite interesting because, yeah, it's still seasonal, but those are the brightest months of the year in a way.
Yeah, I can see why you will say that. I just want to highlight that it's not uncommon that people may experience the winter and the fall winter blues compared to the spring and the summer. But we also would like to consider that sometimes there's a genetic factor as well. Because again, with general depression is year round. But if you experience depressive symptoms typically only in the spring and the summer, that's what differentiates between the two as well. But it's more common in the winter and the fall.
I can understand that because it was kind of cloudy
Yeah,
and I just wanted to go curl up in the bed.
yeah. I can tell you, for me, I remember throughout my life, and I don't think I have SADs per se, but September has always been my most sad month, if you may, because that's when the summer kind of dies down and starts into the fall, and that's the most rainy month. And that's the month where I really want to just curled up and not be out and not do anything. And I really just want to curled up and be in the bed 24 hours if I could.
Yeah.
So I understand that.
Okay, Miss Alexandra, SAD is often linked with winter, as we talked about, and it can be more commonly associated with cold months. And the factors contribute, like you said, some people may experience it in the spring and summer instead of winter and fall. I can understand that. So, can we talk about the symptoms of SAD?
Yeah, we can most definitely talk about the symptoms of SAD. You know, it is a type of depression. So it's not uncommon for people to lose interest in the things that they used to enjoy. It's not uncommon for people to sleep more and still feel tired, even though they may have gotten plenty of rest. It impacts you mentally, physically, and emotionally. Sometimes people may even feel hopeless, worthless. Their appetite changes. They may find themselves eating more comfort food, more carbs, and even it can even lead to weight gain. It's not uncommon for people to even isolate themselves. And I also like to highlight that sometimes people even may experience suicidal thoughts.
Mm.
And they may even find themselves having trouble focusing.
Mhm. I can see, is there, I mean, I know that the holidays itself bring some kind of emotions. Not everybody has this whole happiness or joy about the holidays for whatever reason. It could be they have a loss, or, things are financially not the best. Um, and but is there a trigger, or something that would make kind of a trigger sats, beyond the natural things that would make somebody not feel okay during the winter months?
I would like to say that it's not uncommon for people to just feel sad because life happens, right? Sometimes people are sad. However, that feeling is temporary. Sadness can go away. You may be upset for a couple
Right.
days, especially if it's due to like life situations, or you may even experience grief. However, when it comes to sad itself, the decrease in sunlight is one of the key
Mhm.
triggers. It's one of the key triggers,
Okay.
and it can impact our serotonin, our melatonin, and our vitamin D. I want you guys to take a second and think about the summer, right? In the summer, people tend to be more happier. The sun is out, people
Mhm.
are going on vacations, riding bikes, having picnics, socializing. It's a good time.
Mhm.
I don't like being hot, but I do enjoy the summer. When the
Right.
seasons change and there's less sunlight, it can impact our levels, especially with serotonin. I just want to say that serotonin is our happy chemical. It's the feel good
Right.
meter, basically. I'll just call it a happiness meter. And when we have the right amount of serotonin, we feel more relaxed. We even feel more positive. And serotonin is connected to our mood, our appetite, our focus, and even our sleep. And when we get less sunlight, it can impact those levels. It may decrease those levels. And for some people, it just leads them to feel more tired or
Mhm.
sad. For others, it can lead them to feel depressed. And not to mention I'm sorry, not the serotonin, but the melatonin.
Right.
Melatonin promotes sleep.
Right.
When we have sunlight, it helps balance that. When there's less sunlight, we produce more melatonin, which leads us to feel more tired. Even
Mhm.
if we've gotten enough rest, we may still feel sluggish throughout the day. When we have sunlight, especially in the summer, it helps balance that.
Right.
And now we can talk about vitamin D. One of the best ways to get vitamin D is from the sun. There are other ways too. However, when there's less sunlight, it can impact our vitamin D levels. And vitamin D isn't just for, our immune system or bone health. It also is for our mood and energy. So all three categories can be impacted, and that can lead to sad symptoms.
We know that some medical conditions can cause a deficiency of vitamin D. So, are people with medical conditions with deficiency of vitamin D more prone to SADS and depression?
That's a good question. I'm always an advocate of double checking with your doctor. But if
Mm-hmm.
you deal with low vitamin D all year round, that's different. because with
Mhm.
SADS, it follows a seasonal pattern. So if
Gotcha.
you experience lower vitamin D levels, specifically in the winter and the fall, that can just be associated with SAD symptoms versus dealing with
Mm,
vitamin D deficiency year round.
Yeah, and I'm vitamin D
deficient.
uh lacking vitamin D.
That is what
I
the
have to
deficient
take
word means.
I have to take 50,000
Oh, yeah.
um I think it's micrograms a week. It's
Hmm.
MCG
Yeah.
50,000, and I take it once a week.
Hmm.
Because when I had my blood test done, my vitamin D levels were very low.
That's what deficiency
Hmm.
means. That's what deficiency means. You didn't have
That's
enough
true.
of it.
That is.
I know
And
somebody.
I want to also add that, for example, if someone does experience low vitamin D throughout the year, we can also think about how SADS impacts us mentally, emotionally, and physically too. It's hitting us on multiple levels because vitamin D, yes, it helps with our mood and energy, but in order to know if you're dealing with SADS, of course, I would recommend that you talk to a therapist, but there are some other telltale signs associated with SADS to help you get an idea of what you may
Right.
be experiencing.
What would you tell somebody who is trying to figure out if they are depressed or they're just experiencing sad? We're right now entering into the fall, and well, we're already in the fall, but we're entering the winter months, and we're about to have daylight savings change, which means that this time we lose an hour, right?
Right.
Which means that well, now we wake up and it's dark, and before we have dinner,
Uh
it's
huh.
dark already
Yeah.
again. Uh,
Just dark.
I know
Yes.
it's just dark, which is good for me because now the child can tell me at 8 o'clock it's still daylight outside. So no, it's bedtime, and I'm like, it's time to go to bed. No, the sun is still out. So now we don't have that problem. So how can somebody say, wait a minute, is this sad or is this just depression starting to happen? Do you have some idea how we can tell somebody who's trying to have that debate in their head?
Yes, SADS is very debilitating.
Hmm.
How has your day to day, the way you go about your day living your life, how drastically has it changed? I just want to say it's not uncommon that we all feel a little sluggish. we're
Yeah.
getting used to, yeah, we're getting used to a time change. It's dark outside. On a certain extent, when we think about it, our levels all may be taking a hit at some point. We all might be on a struggle bus for a little bit.
We all want to be cuddled up in bed. Hmm.
Yeah, I would recommend taking a look at how debilitating things have been for you. Like if
Right.
it's really been difficult for you to get out of bed,
Hmm.
you know, if you're tired all the time, and also if you're sad all the time. I just want to normalize that as people, we do experience waves of emotion. That's just part of the human experience.
Right.
But if your constant state, emotional state, is sad, that's something to pay attention to. Like if you experience low motivation consistently, you want to isolate, you don't have the energy or the desire to do the things you enjoy, and life becomes overwhelming, then that's a difference right there. And it's
Right.
nothing wrong with doing a check-in with a therapist or someone you love and care about dearly to check in and let them know what's going on and how you're feeling. Because I like to think of therapy as preventative care. You don't want
Mhm.
to wait till you're in a crisis
Right.
to seek help. So it really takes some time, maybe even some self-reflection, or it may take someone that knows you well enough to know something is wrong.
That's good.
Hmm.
That's good. That's why it's good to have a support team people who
Mm-hmm.
know you, who know how you are, so that when you change, they're like,
Who
hey.
get you out of the dungeon?
Mhm. Oh Lord Jesus. Um, sad can impact someone's. Don't talk about the dungeon, okay?
Why
I
not?
thought about that the other day. I was in my room, curtains closed, dark, everything. I'm like, I don't care what she said. I like this.
Okay, here's the thing, and we'll talk about it.
Mhm.
All
So,
right, let's
and
talk
I don't.
about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's bring it out in the open. So, her bedroom, I call it the dungeon because it has these very dark. I mean, it could be noon, and you walk into that room and you can't see your hands in front of you. It's dark. And the thing, she loves it, and I get it. I love sleeping late. I love to have a dark room, but at some point, she goes in there and she can't see daylight, so she stays in there, and it could be 11 o'clock, and she's still sleeping. And I'm like, knock knock, you gotta get out of there because you think it's still 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's not.
You say that like it's a problem.
It is.
This is why this is why my room is dark. My husband used to work the night shift, and he needed to sleep during the day. And normal curtains will let light in. So we found curtains that lets no light in.
The man has not worked in the last 2 years.
In 3 years.
Oh, but that's worse.
Yeah.
Oh, three. It's
He had
been
worked.
three.
He's retired.
Right.
But he hadn't worked in 3 years. But see, the thing is, when you develop a habit,
Mm-hmm.
So
okay,
is your Christmas
and
gift and
this is
some
a
new
habit
curtains?
that I'm not necessarily I don't want to break it.
So do you need some new curtains for Christmas?
No, I do not. No new curtains, people.
Okay.
No new curtains. No, I'm good. I'm good. But she makes sure that I don't get to stay in the dark. She makes sure I'm coming out the house for something every day.
Yes, I
Okay?
do.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's my support system.
So go about it.
Dragging
Well,
me out.
there is a difference. There's a difference between recharging and isolating too.
Thank you.
Hmm. Okay. I see that.
So would you
Yeah.
say you're recharging? That's your time to
No,
recharge?
no. Her
No.
battery is
It's total
beyond charge.
isolation.
Yes, it is isolation.
Totally.
It is isolation.
Look, when you got 5 grandsons, a husband, a son-in-law, a male dog, all these men, may not want to hear noise, the bumping, the wrestling, the arguing, all that. I like to be in my room and just separate myself. Nobody screaming. That means everybody's fine.
And I get that because I love alone time. I really do. But the problem with, in my opinion, is when it's extended. Because, in my opinion, and my little clinical experience, is when you stay there too long, it leads to depression. Because you're not interacting, you're isolating. You can correct me, you're the licensed clinician. And I do also know, knowing the person sitting next to me, that if something is really not going well in life, if there's a situation happening, then that dungeon seems to be the refuge where we stay there at extended periods of time. And as somebody who has actually struggled with depression knows that if you stay there, it takes you deeper and lower. So yes, I do everything to get you out of there, including sending the 3-year-old to jump in your bed and
I
on top
know,
of
right? And he bangs on my
you. He
door.
jumps on
Oh,
her
you
Like
until he
he's
send
the
you
gets him.
boss.
send the child.
Please jump on her.
She
He'll
does.
get. If I can't get her out, he will. Absolutely.
Now, vitamin D.
Yes.
I just got a call
Oh,
from
we're
my
skipping
doctor.
over that.
Thank you.
No, the only thing I was just going to add is that
Please
there
do.
is a difference when you recharge versus when you isolate and what you're thinking and feeling in that moment. It's okay for people to feel sad. It is. I want to take a moment to acknowledge that it is okay for people to feel sad. But when you are alone and you are by yourself, what kind of thoughts are you experiencing? And what are you feeling at the time that can make a difference? And it's very important to have a support system that can recognize um, when things have shifted, to be there to provide support. That was the only thing I was going to add. That's it.
Oh, that's cool. 'Cause even if you hadn't said it, she's gonna do it. She's gonna make sure it's like the Lord put her here to save me.
Oh, didn't you say the
Mm.
other day? She said something the other day. Are you gonna keep annoying me? I said, yeah, that's my job. I ain't going
Yes,
nowhere.
that's her job.
Yes.
And that's
Like I said, if I can get her out of the room, I just send the 3-year-old. He's really good at jumping on her bed and on top of her. He'll
Mhm.
get her out of bed. You were talking about vitamin D.
yes, vitamin D.
Oh,
I
yes,
had a,
vitamin. Let's talk about vitamin D.
I had a blood test done about a month ago,
Uh huh.
and I got a message today that I need to retake my blood test for my vitamin D.
Okay.
They told me I had to redo.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess they want to see, is it really low? Is it really normal? Like
Mm-hmm.
that. So I got to go back by Monday
Mm-hmm.
and do another blood test for vitamin D.
You were also talking about support systems when I tagged you about me pulling you out.
Yeah, it's good to have a support system. Seriously,
Mm-hmm.
it really
Mhm.
is. Because there are some people that don't have
Mm-hmm.
that support system.
Right.
And when they go in and they isolate, um, like you say, they go deeper and deeper,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard to get out of that.
Right.
So, yeah,
Mhm.
that's something that we need to think about.
Right.
And to do your checklist is, do I spend a lot of time alone? Do I spend a lot of time in the dark?
Yes, you do.
Is somebody always pulling me out of the room?
Yes.
And, like that.
I'm being mean. I'm sorry. Are there people that are more prone to SADS than other? Are there genetic factors or other factors that would make somebody more susceptible to SADS?
Oh, yeah. For example, if there's a history of depression in your family or a history of SAD, it can also increase the risk as well of experiencing that. And not to mention, there's some environmental factors too. Like
Mhm.
when we think of different areas, for example, Alaska, Oregon, just to name a couple, their winters are longer, it's colder, it's cloudier. So people may experience SAD in higher rates in those
Mhm.
locations. So where you live matters too. So don't get me wrong, you can experience SAD no matter which state you live in.
Right. Yeah.
However, though those couple states that I listed off, people may experience SAD more because
Mhm.
of the environment. Now you take that environment and then you combine it with the biological factors too. It can increase the risk, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Double, triple whammy.
Yeah.
And I would also hear about Washington, the
Seattle.
state. Um, all the rain and cloudiness, and their suicide rate is higher.
It's pretty hot.
Hmm.
And I thought about the other day because it was cloudy,
Hmm.
and I'm saying I can't have it like this every day.
I know.
I can't have it like this every day.
Yeah. Me and my husband, we actually went on a honeymoon to Seattle. And
Mm,
there's actually a station, like a news station, dedicated to mental health and
Oh,
recognizing the depression. And I wonder if that's associated with, the higher SAD rates and the higher depression rates that they may be experiencing too. That stuck out because I remember sitting in the
yeah.
hotel and I'm like, oh, it's a channel dedicated to this. This is interesting.
That's
Yeah.
quite interesting.
It is interesting. And I'm glad that there's more awareness,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
of mental health problems.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not just called, off or crazy.
Mm-hmm.
There are specific names to the specific challenges
Mm-hmm.
that we have with our mental health.
Mm-hmm.
When I was growing up, especially when the guys came back from the war,
Mm-hmm.
they would say that they were shell shocked or, stuff like that. But now we know it's PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So now we can put a name to it. Waking up in the middle of the night screaming and stuff like that. That's PTSD. But we didn't know that then. But I am very thankful that we can put specific names with specific mental health challenges. And that makes it healthier. And then people can understand it better. Because a lot of people say, I don't want to see a therapist. I don't want to see a quack, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And someone said that recently. They were suggested, one of my cousins
Mm-hmm.
suggested to go see a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go to see a shrink or see a quack or, and I'm like, just let them talk to me. Cause I could do commercials for therapy. I mean, therapy saved my life.
Here's the thing. I think, and part of that is why we do this, is there, even in 2024, there's a part of the population that he still thinks that mental health is being in a straitjacket in a padded room, drooling, banging your head against the walls.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not the
No, it's not.
case. You know, when
I'm so
people talk
glad you
about,
brought that up.
yeah, because the gamut of mental health, it's from here to here. Yes, there are people who are severely mental health. Still, I mean, asylums like that don't exist anymore, at least not in the US. And yes, there's people who need to be restricted because they're severely mental health. They could be violent. But the percentage of that is so, so small. You know, people with anxiety and depression and even bipolar disorder or certain disorders are functioning people in society that with medication and therapy can do their jobs, can have their families, can function in everyday life. So it's mind blowing to me, and probably it's because I've been in mental health for over almost 25 years, that people still think that, having a mental health issue, or having to seek mental health service means that as soon as you say I'm depressed, or even I'm having thoughts, the fact that you have thoughts doesn't mean they're going to lock you up. It depends on the circumstances. Means that they're going to grab you in the white
Straight jacket.
well, not only the straight jacket,
Mm-hmm.
the ambulance, they're gonna
Oh,
put you in
yeah, yeah,
there
yeah.
with the bars, and they're gonna put you
Mm-hmm.
in the padded room, and you're gonna drool there, and you're gonna bang your head against the wall. You know, after the flew over the cuckoo's nest, I think a lot of people get paranoid, and that
Yeah.
movie is old and not
Yeah.
a reality.
That's true.
I
That's
would
true.
like to also add, just to kind of add on to what you just addressed, there's two things that come to mind. A lot of people really assume that things have to be in crisis mode or severe mental health issues to seek help. But really,
Right.
sometimes people can seek help for a number of things. There are people who go to therapy because they're empty nesters, people who want to learn more about themselves, or people who go to therapy to learn about mental health because they live or know someone who may be struggling with their mental health. And I
Mhm.
also would like to add that people have lived in survivor mode for so long, they don't see a point in addressing their trauma or their mental health because I have bills, I have to work, I can't afford to set time aside to think about some traumatic things that I've been through or some things that I've suppressed. What's the benefit of that? And honestly, it just boils down to improving your quality of life.
You just said something that triggers something in my head. You're in the day to day. I haven't been active for a while. Isn't one of the most diagnosed disorders adjustment disorder? And basically, if I'm not mistaken, again, you can correct me. Adjustment disorder is you're adjusting to something different in your life. You can get married and you could be with the love of your life, but the adjustment of being single to being a married person is causing you some trouble. You might have to get counseling for that. That doesn't mean that you're cuckoo. That just means you need some help, with the new, I don't want to say demands, but the new way of life as a married person. And you might get a
Hmm.
diagnosis of adjustment disorder because you're adjusting to a new way of life. You may be a new parent. Doesn't mean that necessarily you have postpartum, because it could be an adoption or it could be you don't have postpartum. You're just adjusting to the new way of life. You're adjusting to a new job. You're adjusting to, like you said, empty nesters. I think, like I said, I
Hmm.
worked for insurance for a long time. And I think the one thing that I saw the most was adjustment disorder. And that's what it is basically you're adjusting to a new part of life and you're seeking help to figure out how to navigate that change. And that doesn't mean that you are mentally ill or do you have a severe condition.
Oh,
So
yeah,
I think
you're absolutely right.
have, people have the wrong idea of what mental health
Yeah,
actually is.
yeah. And that's one of the reasons
Yeah,
why
there's a
we
lot
do
of
what
things.
we
Oh,
do.
go ahead.
No, no,
No,
go ahead.
to bring the information to the forefront
Hmm.
so people can understand the misconceptions
Right.
that they have. Go ahead,
Go ahead, sweetie.
Alexandra.
Hmm. And I just want to piggyback on, you know, there's a lot of things that can fall under the category of adjusting. It does
Hmm.
not mean that you are severely mentally that you move more. You
Okay.
know, it's not uncommon for people to move less, socialize less because it is cold outside.
Mhm.
Hello.
It's cold outside. So whether you decide to exercise or go take a walk, and I know going to take a walk when it gets colder outside may not be the first thing to come to mind, but hear me out.
Mhm.
Getting as much sunlight can help. Even if it is cold outside and the sun is out, get as much sunlight. Go for that walk because there's a difference between pain and suffering. So if you know you struggle with sad, right? Why not do different things that can help and be beneficial? Exercising is a good strategy too, because it can help, boost your energy. And not to mention, it can help you cope with depressive symptoms. It can help your mental health because when you work out, it releases those feel good endorphins. So exercise, take a walk outside, get some sunlight, and open the blinds at home. You want as much natural so as much natural sunlight as possible. It is very important because again, during the fall and winter months, we're not getting as much sunlight and it can impact our serotonin, our melatonin, and our vitamin D. I also would recommend creating a plan. Create a plan. Create activities to look forward to. That can really help. Get into a routine. Try to set a set schedule for sleep. That can help. That can be very beneficial too. And if you need to, talk to someone, whether it's someone from your support group or your therapist. And there's another thing that sometimes people don't consider: nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
Our food can also impact our mood. Yes, the sunlight is beneficial for our serotonin, which is the happiness meter, our melatonin and vitamin D, but there's other ways to get those things, right? Think of it as Sims. Have you guys ever played Sims before?
Yes, I'm a simmer. Yes,
So
I
you
am.
will know. You would know. I just wanted to use it as an example. There's
Oh,
different things you can do to boost your levels, to boost
yes.
your happiness meter, to manage and balance your melatonin, as well as to boost your vitamin D. You just have to get really creative in how you go about doing so.
You a simmer?
So, I do a little simming, yes.
Oh,
You know what that means?
I've never met another adult
Total
simmer.
simmer.
Oh, can you
This is a safe space, yes.
Oh, we play Sims 4?
So I did take a break, but I have played the game before. Now my
Oh,
oldest daughter has
no.
started the legacy.
Okay.
She's had the legacy situation going,
Yeah.
and I have not committed time to do that yet because I feel like
It's
that is
right.
I had to set
I
some time
understand.
aside to build
Mm-hmm.
up the legacy. But
Gotcha.
yes, I love Sims. I just have to take breaks every now and then because if I don't, I will
You
go
don't
to
like
sleep and wake up,
it?
and
Yeah,
6 months
absolutely.
later, it will be 2026.
I love you even more now. Well,
Mm.
for those who don't know, Sims is a simulation game. You basically simulate life, and you can do whatever you can do in life. I my latest obsession was to build tiny houses because
Mm.
my thing was how much can I cram in a small space? How many appliances and how many utilities and availability I could do in the smallest amount of space. So I would watch tiny nation shows and stuff like that just to
Oh,
get an
okay.
idea. Yes, I am totally nuts. And then go to my Sims and then build as much as I could in the smallest place. Now, before I had a child, I didn't have a baby and I wanted to. So my people were the most fertile people in the world because my children were in The Sims. And the best part is I could shut it down when they were annoying me. I
Mm-hmm.
realize now I can't shut mine down because I can't power him down. So yeah, that happens. But what?
Okay. Now that we've understood about
What the Sims are? Yeah, we went
stimulation.
yesterday.
That's a whole nother episode
Podcast,
right there.
yes.
Alexandra, I've heard a lot about light therapy.
Hmm.
How does it help with SAD? And are there other practical strategies that people can try at home to manage these symptoms?
Now, light therapy is supposed to mimic natural light. Now, you're
Mhm.
always going to hear me say this. Please talk to your doctor first.
Mhm.
Okay? I don't want anyone to say I listened to the therapist on the podcast and I got the light
Right.
therapy box and then I had an episode. We're not going to blame Alex for this. So I
No.
do recommend talking to a doctor before you even do that. It's nothing wrong with being safe. But it is supposed to mimic natural light. I do recommend, just to kind of circle back to what I said earlier, getting as much natural light as possible. Opening up the blinds, sitting outside. I know it's going to be cold, but if there are different things that we can do to help ourselves cope during the fall and the winter, especially if you're dealing with SADs,
Mhm.
go ahead and give it a try. Just give it a try.
You tell family and friends who are noticing that somebody might be suffering from SADS, how could they support the person who's dealing with it?
Yes, do things together. Try to do things together. Plan together, work out together. If you need to come up with a well balanced diet plan well, not diet plan, but well balanced nutrition strategy. I will say
Mhm.
that. Do that together. And also show some grace and kindness because dealing with SADS can feel overwhelming. And sometimes in certain cases, it can lead to developing anxiety because it
Mhm.
impacts your quality of life. Like, for example, if you no longer want to do the things you used to do that, you used to find enjoyment with, you have low energy, you want to isolate, there's no motivation, then it can impact your self-esteem. You may start to feel hopeless and worthless. So to acknowledge the
Mhm.
small changes that this person may be making with your support can be beneficial because it's hard. It can be really, really hard.
In your experience, Alexandra, what's been the most helpful advice for treatment approach for clients dealing with it?
Planning ahead. I recommend planning ahead. If you know you struggle with SADS, it's best to start planning before the fall even hits. It,
Mhm.
Mhm.
it really is. Sometimes people experience sad to such an extreme extent that they may have to take medication.
Mhm.
If that is your case, if that is your situation, start early, plan ahead, develop a routine before fall starts. Whether it's getting out and walking, getting more in the habit of opening up your blinds, balancing your nutrition, refraining from isolating and planning ahead different activities where you are not isolating can be beneficial too. And I know sometimes people wonder, well, if I'm sad and I'm isolating because I don't like to show up as this version of myself, do it anyway.
Mhm.
And here's why. We got to break that up.
Mhm.
You have to disrupt the pattern. And in order to disrupt the pattern, sometimes we have to do the opposite because thinking about us isolating and then turn around and isolate doesn't make it better
Mhm.
Mhm.
because now we're dealing with the negative thoughts, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes one negative thought can lead to another, and next thing you know, you're in a complete negative spiral. Lean on your support system. Don't isolate, lean into people who support you. Now, be mindful and selective with your support system. There are some people you could get around and you feel better. Will you feel like 100% better? Maybe not, but do you feel better than the state you were in before? That's our goal, doing things to help us feel better. Do not surround yourself with people who do not help you feel better. That's how that pain turns into suffering. We don't want that. So be very intentional about the people you decide to lean on where you're dealing with that state and when you want to isolate. Don't isolate. Do the opposite. Okay. So lean on your support. But I would recommend planning ahead, especially if you know the winter and fall months are difficult for you.
Mhm. I think one of the biggest issues with SADS is because it's seasonal. You have to basically suffer through it a couple of times for you to say, "Hey, wait a minute, this happens every whatever season it is."
Mm-hmm.
What would be some initiatives in the community or some resources that could help someone who has finally identified as many times as has been that they're dealing with SADS?
Like to say, for one, the fact that you're doing a podcast on SATs is important. That's
Mm-hmm.
an additional resource too. But
Right.
I will also check in with the community too. Sometimes different group practices may have events, webinars. Some people may have support groups for SAD.
Mhm.
It's kind of like seeing what's going on within your community that can be pretty beneficial too.
I'm sorry, were
Go
you
ahead.
going to say
No, go
something?
ahead.
How can mental health professionals and communities better support individuals who is experiencing the winter blues? Now, see, the thing is, the community can't come to you. You have to go and research the community to see if they have like yoga.
And that's where I was gonna go with. I think that you kind of we were in the same wavelength because my question and more I don't know, a question of statement was somebody who's dealing with SAD should go and see what's available out there that they could get involved, something that interests them.
Mm-hmm.
You were saying yoga or a
Water
Pilates or
aerobics.
whatever
Yeah.
that
Mm-hmm.
is something that interests them and so that they can actually become active. Sure, it could be ceramics class, it
That's
doesn't
true.
have to be workout.
Mhm.
That it will get them involved in something
Mm-hmm.
that would get them out of the house, that would get them involved with other people,
Mhm.
that get them doing something to get them out of the dungeon.
Baby steps.
Baby
Gardening.
steps.
You can
Baby
start around.
steps.
You can
Yes.
start around your house gardening. Um, my youngest grandson and I, we planted pansies last week,
Mm.
and these are flowers that grow in cold weather.
Mm-hmm.
You know how
I'm
you have to
glad
be.
you said that. I'm glad you said that. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. And I'm gonna
No,
tell you
no,
why I'm
no, no.
glad you said it.
Tell
Um,
us.
Gardening is just another form of additional movement too. So not only are you doing something you enjoy, it's adding some extra movement into your life.
And it's also changing your thoughts because you
Mm-hmm.
get to think about what you're planning, get an idea in your head how it's going to look when it
Mm-hmm.
grows. You
Watering
know,
it, the excitement of seeing it
yes,
grow. Mm-hmm.
yes. You have
Mm-hmm.
to water it, the responsibilities that it takes,
Mm-hmm.
and it can also be good therapy,
Yeah.
especially if
Mm.
you have a lot going on around you. That's like a quiet time. Turn on some music, and the music that you like to hear that's going to get you in the mood for you to start gardening. And that's a great idea.
And the thing with gardening is it does not require big spaces because yes, I do have a house now, and we just did squash and radishes
Radishes.
with the baby.
Oh.
I just did that. But I remember being in an apartment and just had these pots, and I would do little gardening for what I could do. So, it doesn't matter if you only have a studio apartment,
Mm-hmm.
you can get some little pots.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even expensive because I get my seeds from the dollar store, no commercial. And, and you make things grow. So it's a cheap hobby, but it is quite beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
In the benefits that it comes from it's quite good.
Definitely.
Even if you get one strawberry a year, which was
Yeah,
what happened to
yeah.
me
You
when
got to start with one strawberry. Then maybe next year you'll
you
have
might get
three.
another. Right.
But I'm glad you said that, because hobbies do not have to be expensive.
Right.
It does not have to be expensive. Sometimes people intertwine hobbies and self-care and all that stuff and think that it's supposed to be just this luxury type of extravagant situation. It does not. It does not, people. It does not have to be.
Just
Because we
takes
get our seeds
right
and the dirt and the pots
from
from the dollar store.
Mm.
Yeah, because we were working with the little one.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he loved it. And then
Because
to
he gets to play
water
with
the
dirt.
plants, and then coming out and seeing growth.
Yeah.
And that just blows him away.
Oh yeah. Even when he's not here and he calls, he's like, "How are the vegetables going?"
Definitely.
So even if, but I remember even before I had a child and I had a house, I had these vegetables and fruit in little pots in the apartment. And like I said, I remember getting one pepper, two tomatoes, and one strawberry. And I was the proudest person on earth. I took pictures and put them on Facebook.
Yeah.
Because I got a strawberry. I didn't get a big harvest, but I didn't spend like tons of money because I got the seeds, like I said, a dollar
Right.
store, some dirt, and some little pots. And I would happily every day go water my plants, and it gives you something to do
Exactly.
and some excitement to the progress of it.
I love that. I love that, because when I mentioned like suggesting having a routine and creating things to look forward to, the
Mhm.
things you enjoy, what fills your cup, that's really boiling down to what I'm recommending. What do you enjoy?
Mhm.
And how can you make a routine out of it to fill your cup to help you during the fall and winter?
I have a question. One of
Yeah.
the things we talk a lot about, especially when we talk about mental health here, is about journaling. And since SADS, it's like I said, is the issue of having to notice the pattern that is every winter or every fall. Would that be something that would help people identify that it's not, like I said, regular depression, SAD? If they are regular journalers, I don't know if that's the right word. Okay.
Close enough.
If they journal frequently, that they can identify, wait a minute, last year everything was going kind of normal, and around, I don't know, August, the end of September, things were starting to look gloom. And then this year, again, everything was okay, or the opposite. Everything was okay during the winter. I was all happy and everything. And then around the spring, things happen. And, is that a good idea?
Yes, in a way, journaling is a form of self reflection.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much power in self reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people get so caught up in the routine of everyday life that
Mm-hmm.
every moment of the day is filled with something, or they may be, unconsciously scared of the silence, but to carve out some type of time, whether it's once or twice a week, for self-reflection to think, it's important too, because in that self-reflection you may learn some things about yourself, or notice some things about yourself that you may not have paid attention to because you're so caught up in your routine.
It does.
Alexandra, we have truly enjoyed you. But before we wrap up,
Okay.
is, is there final advice or words of encouragement that you can share with our listeners who may be struggling with these winter blues?
Of course, I would recommend showing yourself some grace and kindness. It's very important, because SADS is a type of depression, right? And sometimes when it comes to mental health struggles, there's a stigma with it because it's not as visible as maybe a medical condition you go to the doctor for, or something visible that you can see.
Mhm.
And that can be difficult to deal with when you're struggling with something that, since people don't like readily see right away, it can feel isolating and it can lead you to feel alone. And you don't have to be alone. Again, the things I recommended during this podcast, take advantage of it. And also, if push come to shove, if you have to take medication, there's nothing wrong with wanting to have a good quality of life,
Right.
given the state that you're in, especially if you've done all you can do, especially if you've done the therapy, if you tried to working out and moving more and getting light, you worked on your nutrition, you tried your best not to isolate, you tried to do activities. Let's just say you've done it all and nothing seems to help. It's nothing wrong with a little help so you can have a good quality of life. You deserve a good quality of life.
Exactly. That's good. That's good.
Thank you so much for this important topic. I think
Yes.
in all my years in the mental health field, I think this is not a topic that we talk a lot. So I'm glad that we were able to have this conversation.
I am too.
Me too.
Thank you.
So thank you for being part of our Thrive family. I know we will see more of you. And thank you so much for all your insights and your wealth of knowledge.
And thank you so much for having me.
Have a great day, and we'll see you soon.
You
Thank you.
too. Bye.
We are so grateful to Alexandra for being with us and shedding light on this important topic. I want to let you know that she has a webinar coming, so make sure you check her website. The information will be on our description. For our listeners, I hope if you enjoy this episode, please share it. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, leave us a comment, and share this episode with anybody who will benefit from it. I will also tell you to subscribe to all our platforms. We are at the Rising Muse on all social media platforms.
Yes, it is reassuring to know that something as simple as light therapy or even having the right support system can make a big difference in your life.
Remember, if you're experiencing a mental health crisis, please dial 988. If a loved one is experiencing a mental health crisis, please dial 911 or take them to the nearest emergency room.
If you think you're in a domestic violence situation or relationship and need to talk to someone for assistance, you can dial 800 799 7233 or text 887 888. Make sure that you're in a safe place when you are making this outreach.
Until next time, remember to prioritize your mental health and take those mindful steps towards a better you. And don't forget to thrive. Have a blessed day.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.